You're tuned into Recovery TV, the voice of hope, with your host, John J. Tassoni Jr. Discussions and information on addiction and mental health issues. Here's your host with today's guest.
Welcome to another edition of Recovery TV, and I'm your host, John Tassoni. Narcan, please get it. You can get it at CVS, you can get it at Walgreens, at URI. Everyone should have it. Put it in your purse, put it in your car, but you got to take it out at night because the weather does affect it, but it saves lives. My guest today is Emily Matthews, and Emily works for Family Service of Rhode Island. So Emily, welcome and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So tell us a little bit about Family Service and what Family Service offers in the community.
Wow. So Family Service, I think a lot of people are pretty acquainted with many of our services. We work with people from birth through older adulthood. The programs that I specifically work with are around behavioral health, working with everyone from younger children to, again, older adults with a variety of different needs that they're coming to us for, and that really ranges from crisis care, emergency care, to helping support people in longer-term recovery from substance use disorders.
Mm-hmm. Now, how long have you been there?
I have been there almost coming up on 7 years.
7 years.
Yeah.
So the programs that you have, you say from infancy, did you say, to
Older adult.
older adults,
yeah.
like me?
Pick a number. Even older than you.
All
yeah.
Right. So what specific programs that you would have for older adults? Because it seems to me now, being in the community, this is a target that we need to concentrate on because of isolation, because of substance use, because of not having any families, food insecurities. Tell me what you offer.
Yeah, so a lot of our programs work with the whole family, and I think that that's really what we're known for in the community. However, we do offer programming that is specific to the needs of adults, and that would include older adults. So like you said, recovery, we have a growing recovery services program where anyone can come in and we're able to support them, assess them, determine what their needs are, and get them to that place in recovery where they'd like to go. We also offer outpatient behavioral health, medication management, really a variety of those things. And within FSRI, in its entirety, we do have programs that support more of those social drivers of health. So things like economic stability, housing.
So is it fair to say, Emily, that you work with senior centers, that when they have all these folks in one particular place that you can have like a conversation with these folks?
Yeah, so we're actually doing some more outreach to identify the needs in those communities. Actually, I'm meeting with some people later this week about that, because there's absolutely a need. You touched on the isolation, and then culturally too, right? We talk a lot about culture in the field, but looking at age as a part of culture and what that looks like for people seeking help. People who are older adults may be less inclined to seek support at a community center because they might not be as familiar with it. I think a lot of times younger people tend to be a little bit more inclined to come to our door.
Yeah, I think also too there's a little bit of like shame with the older adults saying, I don't want to talk to that lady because I don't want her to know what's really going on. But ultimately, when you see someone who, like at a senior center, sits at a table by themselves, or, is very inclusive, and doesn't get out there and do their thing, there's an issue there.
Yeah.
There's an issue there. And I'm finding out at my senior center in Smithfield, there's a lot of folks that don't have family, that they've lost loved ones, and they go to the senior center just for conversation with people and stuff like that. But, in the back of their mind, you know, they're all inclusive, and they need to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
They need to talk to somebody, because we're also seeing a lot of substances being used in the homes, alcohol being used in the homes. So your programs are very well organized and also much needed in the community.
Yeah.
So let's take a step down now.
Okay.
So now we're talking about people who are not adolescents, but mid-20s to 40s. What kind of programs do you have for that?
So all of the programs that I just mentioned would also be open for younger people, young adults, or emerging adults. We do have additional specific programming for adolescents and young adults. The programs are really based on certain criteria. So what I would just tell people is, if you're not sure, just call us or just show up. And we can help determine, what program is appropriate for you. So we have some programs that are more community-based, so the clinician, the team, case managers, the nurse will meet you in your home. They'll come out to the school. And then there's other programs where you can come to us, so it's more traditional. You'd come in and see the counselor, and then see the doctor at at one of our locations.
So you said you've been there for 7 years. Have you seen things transition in the 7 years? Have you seen family service expand in 7 years?
Oh, definitely.
I know you're saying you do a lot with behavioral health, which is very much needed in today's society.
Yeah, I think one of the things that really drew me to work at FSRI in the first place was the number of programs that they offered, and the fact that we as an organization look at what the community need is, and we modify what we're offering to meet that need. So a great example of that, and I can't speak to too much about the program because I'm not as familiar with it, but is our PCIT, so working with very young children and a caregiver, and we're one of the few organizations to offer that program. And we saw a need in the community, and we're able to train staff, build up the infrastructure on our location with a double-sided mirror, because there's a coaching component to that model. So we look at what the community needs, and we respond to that. And another example of that is our MRSS program, which I know you had mentioned, you had some questions about earlier.
Yeah, I want to talk about that in the next segment, but the boots on the ground, that I hear, the school issues, a lot of issues with the kids in schools. There's so many children now that are living with their grandparents, whether their parents are incarcerated, or they've passed on of an overdose, or they just don't want to be parents, but they leave them to the grandparents. Very much a headache in the community, because if you have someone who's elderly, an older adult, and now you're taking care of a 5-year-old or 6-year-old, I get tired when I go work with my grandson, but imagine day in and day out, because they stay with you all day long.
And it's different too, right? It's a very different culture. So people who are not even elderly, grandparents who are raising grandchildren, and just the technology needs, all the youth that we're seeing know more about the adults in their home, about
It's
different
scary.
apps and programs, and they're even in the homes that we go in where youth are not, don't have a social media,
Right.
they know about it, right? Or maybe their friend does, and they're seeing things, and I think that that's something that older adults may not even be aware of, or know where to look.
Yeah, I want to talk more about that, because we have to go to break. I want to talk more about that, because that is a huge issue now. You're watching Recovery TV, and I'm your host, John Tassoni. We'll be right back after these messages.
And now back to Recovery TV with your host, John J. Tassoni Jr. Recovery TV is made possible by our supporting sponsors and our title sponsor, Kodak. Now, here's John and today's guest.
Welcome back to Recovery TV, and I'm your host, John Tassoni. Emily Matthews is in the house. She's with Family Service of Rhode Island. And thank you for joining us today, Emily. And Emily is a a mental health counselor, along with other things within the family service. But I want to talk a little bit about technology today and older adults today and grandparents today dealing with technology. A lot of, I ask my grandson when I get stuck, and he's 11, about things on the phone that I can't figure out.
Of course.
They're so smart today, these kids, and how they deal with technology. But on the other hand, technology is the demon behind a lot of these kids. False stuff going on, bullying going on, stories that they put on Facebook that are not true. How do you handle something like that when you meet with we'll just say a 12-year-old, and he's got issues pertaining to, he or she has issues pertaining to bullying and stuff like that?
It's difficult, right? I think we were talking about it on break. It is the round the clock, the 24/7 part of that, right? I think back when you or I were in school, it was, if there was bullying happening, it was happening, in the classroom, outside of the classroom, and then, the youth would go home, and hopefully at home they were safe from that.
Go away. Right.
But now it's around the clock, and I have to say the majority of youth that we're talking to, that our teams are talking to, are having challenges with technology or things they're seeing online, things that they're seeing in apps, and differentiating what's true and what isn't, right? So it can be really difficult. So that conversation will be helped when people can be honest and recognizing that it's going to be part of that young person's life and part of what they know. These young people, they grew up with a phone in their hand, right? Even if
they're born with a phone in their hand.
Yeah. Even if they didn't have a phone, their parent did. So they knew what that phone was, from really early childhood, from being a baby probably, and in ignoring the problems or not addressing them. It might be easier in the moment, but it doesn't really play out for anyone in the long run. So really having an open conversation and talking to that youth about what it is that they're seeing, conversations they're having, and being open about what questions they might have in a way that hopefully leaves the door open for more questions and more conversation, and isn't a quick, oh no, you shouldn't be, right? Or you shouldn't be on there, you shouldn't be talking about this. Because the reality is they are, and they have been. So finding a way to approach these conversations in an honest manner can be really hard. It can be really hard for a lot of parents, and I think it can be maybe even harder for older people who are raising grandchildren, because there can be that additional level of fear there of not even being familiar with the technology piece, or not knowing what one app is or another one.
Right.
Because there's so many out there. I mean, I think we all do it, right?
Yeah.
If I'm not sure about something on my phone, I'm like, where's the younger person who can help me with it?
I had someone on my show a few weeks ago pertaining to suicide. And he almost verbatim talked to me about the phone, the bullying, the suicides for young people who they Google it. There's a lot of good information on the internet. There's a lot of bad information on the internet. How to roll a cannabis cigarette, how to inject yourself, how to. It's not good, and I still to this day don't understand how these big corporations can allow stuff like that, like the falsehood of putting something on Facebook when it's not true. And that's when these kids, they start to think, and they say, well, maybe I don't want to be bullied anymore, maybe I should take this pill, or maybe I should go and do this or do that. So it's very difficult. I give the people that are in the mental health field today kudos on the amount of issues that you have to deal with on a daily basis. No day, and I think you can agree with me on this, no day is the same day.
No.
It's all, every day is a different day. And it's, whether it's a bullying, whether it's a suicide, whether it's issues at home, whether it's alcohol, it's all different. It all goes and goes and goes.
Yeah, and I think that it would be remiss not to mention that there are some benefits and positives of using the internet, using different apps, right? There's certainly ways that people can get connected to maybe communities that they wouldn't have access to in real life. However, supervision and support around that for young people, and really for anyone of any age, can be really vital, really important.
So let's talk about MRSS.
Yes.
What is MRSS?
What is MRSS? So it stands for Mobile Response and Stabilization Services. So that is our mobile crisis team. And I have been part of our MRSS team at FSRI since, I had to write it down, 2021. So we're going into our fifth year now. And it is a program that offers really a comprehensive supportive approach to youth and their caregivers who are experiencing crisis. It is a family-defined crisis, and it is a screen in, not screen out. So if you are calling, we are going to respond. And what that usually looks like is we'll respond within an hour, and that's a team of a clinician as well as a case manager or peer support. And we will go out and evaluate anyone between the ages of 2 and 21 in the community, in their home. Schools will often call us and do some screenings, do some safety planning with the goal of connecting that youth and that family to support. So the goal is really to divert people from unnecessary hospitalizations, waiting in hospital rooms. And what's really, really great about this program is it's not just that one and done model. We're able to follow for up to 30 days.
We have to take a break. I want to talk a little bit more about that when we come back. You're watching Recovery TV, and I'm your host, Sean Tassoni. We'll be right back after these messages.
And now back to Recovery TV with your host, John J. Tassoni Jr. Recovery TV is made possible by our supporting sponsors and our title sponsor, Kodak. Now, here's John and today's guest.
Welcome back to Recovery TV, and I'm your host, Sean Tassoni. Emily Matthews is in the house with Family Service of Rhode Island, and thank you for joining me today. Let's finish up our conversation about MRSS. Very much needed. Mobile crisis. I'm sure it's expanded since we started it. What's next?
Oh boy, that's a big question. I think just getting the word out there more.
And I think you're right, because I don't think a lot of people know about it.
And when FSRI first started, it was a smaller program, and it was for a temporary period. It was for a shorter period of time. And now that it is it's statewide, and it is supported currently by CCBHCs, we are responding 24/7, 365, and again, that family defines the crisis. And as I was talking about earlier, that stabilization period is really what makes a big difference.
It makes a big difference when somebody is in crisis. Emily, I want to thank you for joining us today. Greatly appreciate you coming on. I wish you the best in your work moving forward. Your work is very much needed throughout the state of Rhode Island, and it's not getting any better. Everybody be kidding themselves if they think it's getting better. But your work is very important. Next week, my guest is Claudia Morandi of the Doctor Patient Forum. And also coming up next is Kodak Live, a fully integrated approach to care. Ladies and gentlemen, if you see something, say something. See you next week.